Good morning, class. It's Aaron Wadka again. Welcome back for Unit 6, the persuasive speech. Today's topic is going to be CPR, and I chose that subject because it's one of the most critical processes that I use in my career with the fire department in the attempt of saving victims' lives. So today we're going to talk about what CPR is, why we do it, and then I want to appeal to you, the general public, to assist me in that mission by applying a simplified but effective version of CPR to help ensure and improve victims' chances of survival in the case of cardiac arrest. So, what CPR is? Essentially, it is a combination of chest compressions and artificial ventilations, which simulate the natural processes of the body's heartbeat and breathing that, for whatever reason, a person has ceased to be able to do on their own. The chest compressions simulate the heartbeat and circulate blood throughout the body and perfuses vital organs like the brain or the heart to keep them alive a little bit longer. The ventilations provide oxygen to that blood to make the process more efficient. Really, CPR is just buying time because there's a common misconception that CPR in itself restarts the heart. And you probably have seen that in the movies or on television where somebody collapses or drowns, CPR is applied, and then within a minute or so, they just spontaneously wake up and they're fine. That very rarely happens. Again, CPR in reality is basically just keeping the vital organs alive a little bit longer to get them more time for emergency services and medical personnel to deliver electrical or medicinal therapies. Typically, those are the two things that are needed to restart the heart. As far as electrical therapy, a defibrillator is applied. You've probably seen that with the paddles where they're applied and a shock is delivered that restarts or jump starts the heart. That can also be accomplished with medication like epinephrine, which is essentially adrenaline that's applied intravenously that can restart the heart on its own or help the situation by putting the heart in an excitable state and more receptive to the electrical therapy that we talked about. But we're getting a little bit over our heads. So we want to take a step back and talk about citizen CPR, or what we call hands-only CPR. And that's where you come into play, because even in the best scenarios, like my own, I live in Baltimore City. We have stations all over the place. We can typically get to a victim in 4 to 5 minutes. But even in that short amount of time, a victim's chances of survival have dropped pretty significantly, and we'll cover that in a second. It's more in their interest that if somebody witnesses the arrest, that they can immediately initiate CPR, and that greatly increases their chances of survival. And we'll look at this chart here. So in the red, this is with CPR applied. So the vertical axis is the chances of survival, and across the x-axis is the time that has passed. So with CPR applied, with every minute that passes, the chances of survival of the victim only decrease by about 10%. In contrast to here in the blue, that with every minute that passes and no CPR is in place, the victim's chances of survival drop by 40%. So going all the way to the right side, even after 9 minutes, with CPR applied, he has a 10% chance of survival as opposed to basically zero without CPR. The positives and negatives of citizen CPR. The negative is I really don't see one. I may be missing something and I'm open to debate, but if you can think of something, I encourage you to contact me. As far as positives, you can't kill the dead. Any action is better than no action. So even if you have no idea what you're doing, any action is in the benefit of that person. Also, there's no liability on the part of the rescuer. As long as you don't have a duty to act like a medical professional, you're covered by federal and state Good Samaritan laws. As long as you're acting with the intention of helping your fellow man or woman, you're protected. And as discussed earlier, by looking at the charts, you greatly enhance the chance of survival for the victim simply by applying CPR. And when I say CPR, I'm talking hands-on. So I'll provide a link to the actual training film for that in case you want to learn it and be efficient. But in a nutshell, you're basically just putting your hands in the middle of the victim's chest and pressing hard and fast. Optimally, you want 100 beats per minute, but sometimes it gets a little chaotic and it's hard to count. But again, any CPR is better than no CPR. So one of the key points though is every time you press in, you want to release the chest fully, because as the chest is allowed to expand, it actually draws air in. There's no ventilations in citizen CPR. It's called passive respiration. Every time you release the chest, it draws a little bit of air in. So essentially, you're pumping and breathing 100 times per minute. So there is oxygen getting delivered in that blood. It's very simple and effective. And again, when applied quickly, it enhances the person's chances of survival and buys them more time for the arrival of emergency services and definitive medical care. So, in conclusion, we talked about what CPR is, why we do it, and the positives and negatives of the citizens getting involved in the process of CPR. So again, I'm going to apply the link at the end of this video. So for those that really want to learn the fine-tuning of this basic but critical skill, it's greatly encouraged by me to investigate it. So without further ado, I bid you good day and good luck with the rest of class. Thanks.